Help! What did I do wrong? Louis, can you help poor Rick?
First thing, we just have to level with Rick and with the audience that it's 2025. You can't do. I'm about to launch my first ever newsletter. How important is it for me to have a website with my posts on it?
In theory, it's not important at all. It's like a drug dealer, right? It's like you give them a little taste for free, and then, they're going to get hooked on it.
Joe says, Tyler, I saw you post about Axios spelling their own name wrong in their subject line. What's your most embarrassing newsletter fuck up?
I have the ultimate hack so that you can't get in trouble for any embarrassing mistakes. So what I've done is at the bottom of the water coolest is I actually put...
I am psyched to be back with some Q&As. We have 4 pretty awesome questions from guests, which is amazing to see. Let's jump in with number 1, which I think is aimed more at you than me. So Dev asks, I'm about to launch my first ever newsletter. How important is it for me to have a website with my posts on it? What do you think, Tyler?
In theory, it's not important at all. But so I actually used to be team no archive, as in you're signing up for my newsletter. The only way you get it is in your inbox. I actually have kind of come around on that, and I think it's actually a fairly bad idea. And I say that because I think it's such a big opportunity to get people to sign up for your newsletter by giving them, it's like a drug dealer, right? It's like you give them a little taste for free, and then, they're going to get hooked on it. So I think when I look at it, and I think most people think that they're really good writers, or they know a lot about the subject that they're writing about, right? And I maybe sound arrogant here, but I think I have a pretty damn good newsletter. And so the fact that I was just expecting that you were going to sign up based on whatever the hell it was that I wrote on my landing page, I feel like was a pretty stupid idea. And I think it's a better idea to have people able to read my newsletter and be like, wow, this is hilarious. Wow, this is great insight, whatever it is that they get out of it. And then they're going to sign up for it. And I'm pretty confident that, if they truly want it, they're not going to come visit my website because it's 2025 and most people don't visit a website. I think the best way to do it is somewhere in between. And I think ESPs have actually led us this way, which is do the gated kind of email, right? So give somebody a little taste, don't let them have, everything, but give them a little taste, and then, gate the newsletter and say, hey, if you want the rest, you have to sign up for it. And I think that's the best way. So yeah, I think if you're speaking about needing a website for an archive, I would say go for it. I think you should do it pretty much no matter what, even though I used to be pretty anti-archive having your newsletter anywhere on the internet.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess in your case, there isn't much of a chance really that someone is going to go back and be like, I wonder what Tyler was writing about the market in February last year. It seems pretty irrelevant. Right. Whereas a lot of newsletters, I think, there's definitely cases where where it's going to be really beneficial to have a website with your posts on it, right? If you're writing educational content or evergreen content, you want to be ranked for SEO. It helps. People will find you, even if it's just a small amount. You want at least potential
SEO actually does. Do you think SEO is actually worth your time in the newsletter game?
For some people, absolutely. Yeah. I bet for MarketBeat, for example, it's worth it if you write. My newsletter gets subscribers from SEO, right? I get 15% maybe of my subscribers from SEO, 20%. It could be a lot more if I wrote a lot more on it.
I guess I do so far out of my thought, because I'm writing commentary on the news, right? It's there's going to be so many. I'm not breaking news. There's going to be so many people ranking before me, the original sources. And it moves so fast, right? It's almost impossible. So it doesn't really cross my radar, but that's super interesting that
if you write a local newsletter and you're writing 5 things to do this weekend every week, and what is coming up this summer and everything, you absolutely want to have that available to SEO, right? Especially with AI coming now, where it's we don't know exactly how it's figuring out what to include, but it seems to be looking at the same stuff that SEO is looking at, because AI is starting to power more and more of the SEO. So
right.
it was like what the search engines are looking for, sorry, not the SEO. So it definitely seems to be important. Like if you don't write online, the one thing we can guarantee, like if you don't have your posts available online, the only thing we can guarantee is that ChatGPT is not going to like reference what Tyler thinks about the markets in their answer, right?
Right.
If it's not available for it to look through. So I think in that case, it's important.
Every I feel like every publisher is like suing, the LLMs right now, or like the chat GPTs of the world. I'm like, no, come hoover up my data and put a little link at the bottom to what I am. So I feel like there's kind of two thoughts on that. Some people are like, don't train on my data. I'm like, no, you can train on the water coolest data.
Yeah, I like that. The other thing I think you already touched on is the it makes it easy to share with friends, right? And to get them to give you the email address as well. So if you make people forward the email, most of those, firstly, people don't like doing that because it's a pain in the ass. And secondly, like those people are not then necessarily going to subscribe to your newsletter. They're just going to read the full article. Whereas if you call out like, hey, here is this edition of the newsletter online for you to share with friends, copy paste the link. Everyone who goes to that page, like you said, if you gave the article after like a teaser, they're going to have to subscribe to get that. And that definitely makes a big difference. Like after I send out an email, even if I don't tell anyone about it, I'll get 25, 30 extra signups on that day from people who've shared it somewhere with friends.
Yeah, and I would say, this is just an FYI, I would always put the call to action for the people who got it forwarded to them. I feel like a lot of emails leave that out, but like if you're putting a call to action, forward this to a friend in your email, right, for your subscribers, always put pretty high up in your newsletter a call to action for those people who got it forwarded to them to sign up for it. I just see a lot of people that don't do both of those things, and it's like, you should do it. I know it's going to look obnoxious to 99% of your email subscribers who are already on the list, but I promise you they will not care. They will just overlook it. It'll become something that's, just it fades away to them. I promise. It's worth
part of the background noise.
Exactly.
Yeah. As someone who says he's starting a new newsletter, I think it's fine to wait because you don't know what the format's going to be yet. You're going to make some changes. You don't even know if you're going to continue. So I would focus, number one, on just like get a couple of editions of the newsletter out the door, get some feedback on it. If it's like one click, if it's nice and easy to add the archive and it's done automatically, like Substack, Beehive, Kit, I think even MailChimp and Campaign Monitor, like make it pretty easy. Button down, Ghost as well. Why not? It's there. You can always change it later if you want. But I definitely wouldn't be like, okay, I'm not going to launch my newsletter for another 2 weeks because I'm waiting to build out the website or anything. Unless you've raised a ton of money, obviously, and you're like launching like a media brand. But if this is just like a personal newsletter or like something you're trying out pretty quickly, I'd say just like get it in front of real readers and do that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Dev, you answered your own question and said, I'm about to launch my first ever newsletter. You didn't say I'm about to launch my first ever website or blog. So focus on making a killer newsletter. That's always first and foremost. But I agree. It's like if you can make it easily, which pretty much every ESP does, go for it. Should we get into the next question? This one's for you.
Let's do it.
All right, we got Rick. He says, I have 4,500 subscribers on my newsletter, and I just launched a referral program to grow my audience. It was a total flop. Only 3 of my subscribers referred their friends. In total, I got 5 new signups. Help! What did I do wrong? Louis, can you help poor Rick?
Well, I have spent more time thinking about newsletter referral programs than anyone should ever have to do in their life. That's pretty much all we did for like the first 3 years of Sparkloop. So probably helped like 1,000 people set them up. And I guess what I would say is like first thing, we just have to level with Rick and with the audience that it's 2025. You can't do a simple milestone referral program anymore and get a lot of subscribers from it. Like you can't copy Morning Brew, what they did, and go, okay, extra newsletter at 1, stickers at 2, mug at 5, blah, 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 right? Just doesn't work anymore. If you are someone who is getting results with that, you could probably turn off the rewards, and it just happens that your newsletter is really good and people like to share it. Like those rewards are basically doing absolutely nothing for you. So I would say with that caveat, number one, most of the people I talk to about referral programs, when we get into the weeds of it, they actually end up not doing a referral program. And it's because they just don't work anymore as well. Like the traditional, like easy milestone referral programs don't work as well anymore. And it's B, because the work that you would have to put in to actually do it and do it well is just not worth it when you could be spending that time and that space in your newsletter on something else, right? That referral section and that click that you're getting from people, that could be an ad slot. That could be an upgrade to a paid thing. It could be a cross promotion with another newsletter. All of those things, especially nowadays that you have like free recommendations and paid recommendations, like there are so many easier, better ways to grow your newsletter than a referral program 99.99% of the time.
Yep.
If you came to me, Rick, and say, hey, like, I don't care that recommendations and paid recommendations and swaps and meta ads and everything like combined is going to be way better for my newsletter growth. My goal in life is to have a referral program that works and drive subscribers for my newsletter. What I would say there is slightly different. I'd say, firstly, like, you have to stand out in a way that a traditional referral program doesn't anymore, right? So just like you were talking about, Tyler, before, and the other question about like people are going to gloss over that call to action to subscribe for the newsletter inside your newsletter.
Right.
Nobody looks at referral program blocks anymore. It's the same as like the social share button. Like people just don't even see it. It's just part of the furniture. It's like the footer of your newsletter. Nobody's ever going to read it. So I think what you need to do is to find some way to stand out and get people's attention, right? So you can have a huge prize. You can have a silly or like a ridiculous prize. You can have like some urgency on it, right? Or you can actually do something that I think is like probably the best kind of referral program that you could run today, which is just to flip the whole thing on its head. And instead of saying, hey, you'll get rewarded when you refer your friends, to say, hey, I've made this thing. It's really valuable, whatever it is. You're only allowed to invite 3 friends to get it. Like, you have to put your email address in to get it. You have to have a referral code to get it if you're not already on the list. And here are your 3 referral codes. Like, you can share these with 3 people and only 3 people. And what that does is it's a really interesting like psychological shift, which is really powerful in marketing, which takes you from a question of, do I want to share my referral link, to the question of, okay, which 3 of my friends are going to get one of these 3 codes that I have? And just that slight shift gets way more people to share than they would otherwise. So that would be like my take on it. Probably just like, if you're going to look for inspiration, don't look at what other newsletters are doing, because it kind of sucks right now. Look at YouTubers, look at Twitch streamers, look at people like that. What are they doing to like get their audience to share, to like, to subscribe? Like, what challenges are they running? It's all about personality. It's about big prizes. It's about crazy stuff. And then I think the limiting thing would work. You want to add anything to that, Taylor?
No, I don't actually have much to add. I think, yeah, like the newsletter industrial complex has kind of drilled this into our brain that this is how you grow a newsletter. And I think, listen, I love those guys. They paved the way for a lot of us, but Austin and Alex from the Morning Brew going on every podcast and saying, we grew hundreds of thousands of subscribers with our milestone referral program. Just kind of put it in everyone's mind that these things work. And I think the best thing you can do, and this is going to sound super lame, Rick, so I apologize, is create content that's worth sharing, right? Like, if you're just creating AI slop or just garbage regurgitated content, it's not super shareable. Like, my newsletter doesn't work particularly well with being shared, because I think a lot of people are sending it to a friend and they're like, oh, well, I don't know what kind of joke Tyler is going to make. I don't want to send this to my boss because it might be offensive, right? And I've gotten that feedback. So that kind of sucks, right? But to Louis' point, there's a bunch of other ways that I'm doing growth. So it doesn't really concern me. I just, my biggest fear is like, people say, I'm going to launch a newsletter. They go search, how to grow a newsletter. It's like these 5 things. And they're like, oh, if that doesn't work, it's not worth doing. There's a ton of ways that you can grow a newsletter. But I would say, if you want people to share it, just create awesome content, make it worth sharing, and the people will probably do it for free.
The more interesting your content is, the less exciting your growth, like the way you grow the newsletter needs to be. I think that's a much healthier place to be, is really good content, like spending all your time on great content and just doing like the thing that works for everybody else on growth, like the boring
Right.
thing, is going to be a much easier job than having kind of shitty content and having to think up loads and loads of like really creative ways to get people to subscribe and stay subscribed.
It's also like, Rick, you gotta level with yourself here. It's like, do people really care to have a mug or a sticker with ricksnewsletter.com on it, right? It's like you gotta make something really cool before people want that, right? Like you gotta build a brand. Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Yeah. And also like people don't like to profit from their friends in that way anymore, right? Like people know that if you're sharing a newsletter with a referral link in it, that you're doing that because you want something. And those subscribers, like I call bullshit on like the if you have milestone referral rewards that are interesting enough to get people to actually share with their friends, those subscribers are not going to be the best quality subscribers anymore, because they are doing you a favor when they're signing up. They're not doing it because they love the
and
newsletter.
then you like run into like I've tried everything, right? Like I've done Amazon gift cards, I've done straight cash, right? And the moment you start playing with that sort of stuff, you just incentivize people to do the wrong thing. Yeah. And then it's just an uphill battle of, okay, it's like, t.morin@gmail.com, ty.morin@gmail.com. You're just constantly battling these people who find a loophole. Then they go tell their friends, this idiot is giving out Amazon gift cards, for signups. You should go do it. And the bigger your newsletter gets, the bigger headache that gets. So, you just have to be careful about it.
Especially if you're using an inbuilt referral program that doesn't have like security screening and stuff like that around that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's move on to question number 3. Joe says, Tyler, I saw you post about Axios spelling their own name wrong in their subject line. What's your most embarrassing newsletter fuck up?
Yeah, so just some context here. This is sadly probably my most engaged LinkedIn post. It was over Labor Day weekend, Memorial Day weekend. I feel like on a Saturday. I don't know why I was reading my inbox, but basically Axios sent an email out, and in their subject line, instead of saying Axios alert, they said Axiom alert. I thought it was kind of funny. I highlighted it, took a screenshot, and posted it on LinkedIn. It got a lot of engagement, people just kind of poking fun at it. I don't think it was actually that big of a deal. Clearly, the weekend intern just kind of made a mistake, but it is kind of funny. Let's see.
It's funnier with the added context of like Axios being so, I don't want to say stuck up, but like they're very proud of,
right?
Yeah, very proud of like they hold themselves to very high journalistic standards, let's say.
Yes.
Very publicly. Yeah.
That's actually a good segue, because yes, like my newsletter, there is no journalistic integrity almost. And I would say, I probably every single day, right? So I'm the writer, the editor, I kind of do it all, right? So there's probably at least 2 to 3 mistakes in every newsletter. And by that, I mean, kind of grammar, spelling, maybe I pulled the wrong number. My big focus is always going to be on, I cannot get the facts wrong, because if you do that long enough, right, no matter, the water coolest is clearly kind of irreverent fun. But I think if I do that enough times, people are going to,
you'll end up president.
Yeah. They're like, okay, this is just a little ridiculous. Like you need to get like the basic facts straight, especially if you're just reporting on news that I could see in Wall Street Journal, CNBC. I will say my biggest fuck up, and I haven't done it recently, which means I'm probably going to do it now soon, is putting the wrong advertiser's link in a call to action. So basically one advertiser's UTM in the other advertiser's call to action button. It's hard to come back from this. It sucks, right? Because the advertiser is pissed off. Your readers are pissed off because they were expecting one thing and they got another. Some people might think you were trying to pull a fast one on them. And then it really sucks for you because typically I either have to go back to them and beg for forgiveness, but there's usually no going back from that because you've almost like wasted all of the clicks on the bad click and the wrong link. So usually that means I'm either paying, giving the money back, not collecting money for the ad, making up for it with another run or another couple runs, and I'm losing money there. So that's just a really crappy thing. And it's such a simple thing to go back, click on the link, make sure the link goes somewhere. So those are probably the most embarrassing, not necessarily to the readers, but to the people who keep the newsletter going. And I just hate that shit. That sucks. I guess the other probably second one is I'll set the newsletter if I'm working at midnight, right? Because I'm sending. I usually set it the night before for 6 a.m. the next morning. So sometimes if it's after midnight, I'll click on what day it is, and then I'll do it for the next day, so the newsletter doesn't go out in the morning. I usually do that a couple times per year. And I will say, shout out to Mom. The reason that I usually find out about that is because my mom will call me and say, "Are you okay? Are you alive?" Because I didn't get the email this morning. That's basically, like our relationship at this point. She knows that it's coming and she clicks on every ad link because she thinks that makes me a ton of money. And so shout out to Mom. But those are probably the two worst things that I do. I wouldn't say regularly, but there's just no coming back from the wrong link.
Nice.
What about you, Louis?
Well, I was going to say on the like if you ever do send out the wrong, like you put the wrong sponsor's link into the ad, you can some ESPs like Kit, they will allow you to change where the link goes to after you've sent the email, which is kind of cool.
Wait, but there's no way that's going to change in the inbox.
Yes, yeah, it does.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that actually work?
Because to get nerdy for a second, every link inside of an email is first it will go to your ESP's server.
Oh, right.
And then they will redirect it to where it's supposed to go. So Kit, which is I think this is there are a lot of reasons I use them, but probably unsponsored. The main thing that they the one thing that they do that for some reason no one else does, and it's just genius, is being able to change the link when you mess it up afterwards, and it changes for everybody.
So I just thought that would change in the archive. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it changes directly, and if your ESP doesn't do that, you can use Bitly or something to do the same. It's just a pain in the ass because you have to change every link into a Bitly link. But what I've done that before or something very similar. I've changed it, and then for the people who clicked it before I changed it, I basically just sent them a follow-up email saying "Hey, whoops, I'm sorry, you were trying to go here. Please click here. It's a really good link.
Right.
You were interested before," kind of thing, right? Trying to make some find some way to make it kind of funny, but also here's this thing. Please go click it. And you can even worst case, you can even just potentially, depending on your terms and conditions and privacy and stuff, you could just share the email address of the people that clicked with the sponsor if it's such a big deal for them, or even at least offer to, and that way they feel pretty good about the seriousness. I've never sent a newsletter that was important enough to for there to be a really embarrassing fuck up in it. I think I've sent a blank subject line before. I've sent the wrong subject line, last week's subject line before. So people opened expecting something completely different.
Yep.
I've probably messed up links a few times, but again, changed it. It's never been. It's more annoying than embarrassing. I'm not writing a book that's in print, right? If it was a magazine that was going to get sent to everybody, I would be a lot more worried about it. But
that was a really good feeling when you had a textbook in school or something and you found the typo in the textbook. Me, maybe.
I'd say you went to a much nicer school than I did. I was struggling to see the spelling mistakes through the very rude drawings that someone 2 years before me had penciled into it.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. But I will say and we'll close with this. I have the ultimate hack so that you can't get in trouble for any embarrassing mistakes. So what I've done is at the bottom of the water coolest is I actually put in a little line that says "Sent from my iPhone. Please excuse any grammar or spelling errors." Right. So I'm pretty sure, right, because I've seen, that's a popular way for MDs and people high up at companies to send emails. So it's a great way to just avoid any responsibility whatsoever. Be like, hey, guys, I'm covered.
You at least got to do it like ironically. You got to do like send from my Windows phone or like from my BlackBerry or something. Just give it a little update.
Yeah, maybe I'll change it to BlackBerry. I like that. That would do well with my audience. The throwback.
Yeah. Send from my Palm Pilot. It can go all the way back. Very cool. Should we go to the last question of the day?
All right. So we have a question from Kate. Glad to see we have a female writing in here. I write a newsletter for people working in the D2C direct-to-consumer space. It's still not making a ton of money, but I want to grow it faster and can spend about $2,000 per month on paid growth. What channels should I try out? Louis, let's go to you first. I think I know where you're going to go with this.
Yeah, I just love that you said we're a female listening to us, and like immediately, like the three women who listen were like, ugh, I'm turning off.
Yeah. One of them being my mom, so shout out.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this question at first. I thought I was have to like a super deep dive into like, okay, you can use recommendations and paid recommendations and this and that, blah and blah, and you could go do sponsorships, and there's like a ton of different ways that you can grow with paid growth, right? Which, if we really want to limit it to paid growth. And then I saw that she wants to spend $2,000 a month on it. And if you only have $2,000 a month to spend on paid growth, I don't think you even are at a point yet where you want to be experimenting with different channels, because that is not an amount of money where being 50% cheaper is really going to make a meaningful difference. I say this as someone who runs a company that makes basically all of our money by helping newsletters spend money on growth, right? So like you would probably expect me to say, come start a Sparkle partner program, get recommended by other similar newsletters, don't have to do any work, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, at $2,000 a month, I wouldn't do that, because you don't need that complication. You don't have enough budget to split effectively between multiple different places. And anything else you do there is really going to be a distraction. Focus on the monetization so that you can spend $10,000 a month soon. So literally
that's a bit of chicken and egg, right? So you have to spend to grow so that you can charge more. You can't just start charging more.
You can monetize your existing audience better, right? What I would do is I would take the $2,000, I spend it on Meta, I do it myself at $2,000. It's not, no one good is going to work with you at that revenue level, so don't do that. Just do it yourself, copy what other people are doing, watch some YouTube tutorials. It's going to be fine and easy. And spend your time on...
I would also say maybe that's not true. I don't find Meta ads super easy to run by yourself. Like I've never been able to get close to what like the agencies out there can get subscribers for. It's like if they're getting subscribers for $1, right? Like if I'm doing it on my own, I'm watching some YouTube, like I'm making some ads, like you're talking like a couple bucks is like where I've gotten. Maybe I just suck, but like I think maybe people I think Meta ads are more difficult than you think, which gets me very excited about what they're going to do, which is like just run everything with AI. I put a credit card in and they keep optimizing, which is awesome. And I can't wait for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that running Meta ads is easy. Like I think that there are a couple of really good agencies out there,
right?
But everyone I would trust to run your Meta ads for you, and I think will actually add value, they will not take you at a $2,000 a month budget.
I think I agree. I think most people are like $5,000 and up. And I think then you also have to factor in their costs, right? They're either going to take a percentage of it or they're going to take probably at least a couple $1,000s a month. So then that just basically eats into your budget. So
if you have $2,000 to spend on growth in total, you don't want to be working with the kind of people that you can afford by and large. You might be lucky and get someone who's like looking for their very first client, but has done this as a genius in-house for 20 years. Maybe, but really probably not. So I'd go,
whatever you do, not accept the people who reach out to you on LinkedIn, right? They are not good and they are not going to grow your newsletter. for the most part, 99% of them.
So I would go Facebook Meta, do it yourself. I would focus on adding paid recommendations, lead gen, tripwire products on the other side, so that you make back most of that money straight away. So that maybe month 2 you can only afford to spend $2,000, but by month 2, by month 3, you feel pretty comfortable with the amount of money you're making back immediately post subscription. And that $2,000 stretches to a budget of $5, $6, $7, $8, maybe even $10,000. And as soon as you get past that point of about $5,000, that's where you don't want to have everything inside in Meta or in one channel, because there is huge variation. They can ban you, they can go offline, they can spend all your budget, they can just have, it could cost literally 10 times as much for the exact same thing that you were doing overnight, and you don't know when that's going to come back again, right? Meta is very, very unpredictable. It will get burnt all the time. So what you want to do is you want to have something that's kind of like high risk, high volatility, like Meta, and you want to put, if you're happy with it, 75, 80% of your budget in there. And then you want to take the other 20%. And this is only when you're at like $5,000+ a month in total spend. Take the other 20%, put that into something like Sparkloop, where you're going to pay $1,000-ish. You're going to pay exactly $2 or exactly $3 per subscriber. The quality is going to be really high. And most importantly, okay, this isn't going to, like, when the going is good on Meta, this isn't going to be my cheapest subscriber. But when Meta messes up, as it does like at least once every month or two, I can turn off my Meta spend or ramp it right down, ramp up the Sparkloop until I'm seeing signs that Meta is realistic again. And then you can go back to spending most of it there. So it's almost like a hedge, like having a second or a third channel as a hedge. And as you grow past like $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 in spend, you can take some of that budget and start experimenting with it, right? You might do some Reddit, you might do some Google AdWords, you might do some direct newsletter sponsorships and like try out some different stuff. But $2,000 budget, just put it into Meta 99% of the time, especially with her audience, I'd say.
I don't know that I fully agree. I think
Meta,
where
would you go?
So Meta is, again, I just come back to like, I think it's tough to do. It takes a lot of time, a lot of management. So I was thinking about a few things, and granted, I have no idea what her newsletter is about, but I think there's a couple ways. I go back and forth on this. We talk about this a lot, like the whole giveaway, like Dojo Mojo type thing, which is basically you combine with a bunch of other newsletters and you guys all do a giveaway, call it a trip, a MacBook, something like nice, right? And then everybody gets access to those emails. I think that's a really good way for a small newsletter to try to grow, especially if you can find a bunch of people in your niche that want to do that. And it could be relatively cheap, right? So I do like trying those at the beginning, because again, that's something, it's a big ROI for, because it comes back to a lot of the time, if you're starting this, it's clearly not making a ton of money if you only have $2,000 to spend, and you don't want to be spending a ton of time figuring out meta ads. You can set one of these up pretty easily. The other thing I was thinking about is with $2,000, and this really depends on your niche, but you could do stuff that, and I think I mentioned this before, right? Like things that don't scale. And I think you could make a thing that doesn't scale by hiring a VA. So one of the ideas I was thinking about is, say it's kind of like a blog about being a first-time mom, right? You could basically hire a VA for $2,000, which, someone in the Philippines, that'll get you literally a full-time person. And you could basically have them go on, use your Facebook profile, go on and kind of like infiltrate these mommy Facebook groups, which are crazy engaged, right? And you could start posting a ton of value. You could do the same thing on Reddit. And then you could start like DMing people and, giving them, direct access to the newsletter. I think it's one of those things that, especially at the beginning, if you want to get these like super, super engaged people, if you're kind of making these one-on-one connections, it could be a really valuable, use. And then I think the other way, right, is, sponsoring a bunch of newsletters in your niche. Again, there's more risk here. But I think if you're really smart about it and you do some research into, what these newsletters are all about, you could go in and sponsor, some of the newsletters. And then I think the final one that I have, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is actually like buying newsletters. And I think what we said was like, you either want to buy a newsletter for a very small amount of money, or you want to buy like a fairly big newsletter. So in theory, you could spend your month doing due diligence, trying to find a decent newsletter that has, you know, if you have $2,000 to spend, you could probably find a newsletter with a couple thousand people on it. Again, somebody who is in your space that says like, hey, this is just hard, I want to give up. Like, I built a pretty decent audience, and you could go buy those folks and roll them into your newsletter. I don't know how many times that can work, but I think if you're doing this for a couple of months, like that could be a good use of your time. Because the way I look at that is somebody already went out and did the hard work. So they went out and potentially spent on Facebook, but they did the good part where they filtered out all the crappy people, hopefully. That's something you should ask them in due diligence. And then you're getting access to that list. So I think there's a couple of ways beyond Meta that I would do it. And I think more of them are kind of like one-on-one relationship, like reaching out. I think my point being, at the beginning, you kind of have to do the hard things and the things that don't scale and the things that kind of suck to get an audience built up.
I like some of those things, like especially around the partnerships and the cross promotions and stuff. But like, I think you can do that. Like in her case specifically, I think you can do that all on the free side, right? She's in the D2C space, so very small community.
Oh, she did say what newsletter she had. Okay.
Yeah. So like, why would you, like, you don't need to spend on sponsoring. You can just do a cross promotion in a lot of cases, right?
Yes.
I think I don't think any of the, like, I think all the suggestions you made are like that. There's a good chance that they'll be like ROI positive and that they'll pay off. I do think, given the space that she's in, like I would gravitate to the like paid Meta stuff, just because if you're like $2,000 a month is now, you are at the point where it must be a relatively serious thing that is making some money and you want to scale it. You're going to have to do Facebook like and Meta sooner or later, like probably sooner. You may as well just like start figuring it out now. I don't know when you last started doing it, but like it's still annoying to set up the first time, but it's definitely gotten a lot easier, and AI helps a lot. You don't have to do like all the like a lot of the audience stuff is already figured out for you and all that kind of stuff. Like it's not as bad as it was like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it by myself in probably a couple of years, like COVID-ish, when I had a lot of time on my hands.
It still should be way easier than it is, but it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be.
I guess my thing, do you want to hit a bunch of singles when you're just starting out, or do you want to try to hit a home run? What's your thought on that with the newsletter?
I go back to
sorry for the baseball reference, which I realized you probably don't get.
No, I can translate it into cricket in my head, and then it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some singles you're on. I could hit for 6. I guess the way that I'm thinking about this is like, I'm assuming she has 3 places that she needs to put her time, right? Growth, monetization, and content. Mm-hmm. And she's still relatively early if she could spend $2,000 a month. So what that's telling me is like monetization and content probably for me are like joint priority number 1. Like making sure that people who are coming through the door are really good and really interested in what you say, and that then she's monetizing them really well. And I would focus on the monetization part. And then I think if you write good content and you are good at monetizing your newsletter, then Meta ads are like, you don't need to get clever. You don't need to spend time figuring out what will and what won't work. And you know that if you can get it to, like, once you get it to work, it's going to scale, and it's going to keep scaling, like blips aside, more than anything else that you could do. Like each newsletter sponsorship you do, it almost becomes harder because you then have to find the next one, and then you have to find the one that wasn't quite as obvious or quite as good, right? And when you revisit one, it's not going to work quite as well. Same with a lot of this other stuff. Like I don't dislike any of those ideas, and I think they're all great things to experiment with. But like, if I were in her shoes now, I would be trying to minimize the time that I spend on growth after the initial setup, and being like, this is, I'm not going to like hack my way to, from 2,000 to 20,000 subscribers overnight with paid, because I think the hacks there are on the free side, right? Like you go and do like a collaboration with 10 other people who are in your space, all those kind of things that you're talking about, right? You take someone whose list, like their email list, like you're saying, like you want to buy their email list, just go write a post and like ask them if they'll post that instead, for example. Then you'll get the good subscribers who will come over. So I would say like put the time into creative stuff that's free and monetization and content, and the paid stuff, figure out the most important, like what is going to be the most important channel for you. Like now, start figuring it out because it takes some time, and diversify it later if you need to.
Yeah, I think you should go for the home run.
Tyler wants you to swing for the fences. So what Tyler was saying is go find a newsletter to buy, spend the money on it, and if it doesn't work out for you, Tyler says he will personally write you a check to cover the loss.
I just think, maybe this is more psychological. I think it helps to have kind of like this big win, this dopamine rush, and I'm not saying like it's a guarantee whatsoever, but I think there's something to be like, okay, we got this momentum, we did this big thing, right? I think it's worth, maybe I would split it up and be like, okay, I am going to put $1,000 into Meta every month, which I understand is not a lot, but maybe I'm going to take, a couple swings on like these giveaways, maybe that'll go well, or, do something, sponsor a newsletter, and hopefully that there's like this killer ROI, or, potentially work with an influencer in your space, something like that. Or even, working with again, going back to the VA, like having a VA blast out emails to, if you're in the D2C space, working, collabing with a bunch of D2C brands and saying like, hey guys, like I'd love to send this to your email list. I think it's going to help them for XYZ. And I think if you do that a bunch of times, the lottery ticket may pay off. So I just think at the beginning, maybe psychologically, like I'm like, I need a win. I need to win early to get really excited about this opportunity and be like, okay, we're on to something. Let's go. Let's spend money.
Yeah. I guess if you want to classify, like those are all things that I think I'm not sure about the sponsoring the newsletter, but like collaborating with the D2C brands and stuff. Like if you want to take the paid budget as like spend on an assistant or something, like someone to take that time off your hands, then yeah, I guess I would be on board with that. Of like, those are absolutely things that you want to be doing, right? Like when you launch your newsletter, like within a week of you launching your newsletter, really almost regardless of the niche, like I think you should have 5,000-10,000 plus subscribers, because like there's no point, like if you're going to go to the effort of like launching the newsletter, you should be starting it off with like one of these collaborations like I did with Grow My Newsletter. Like there's no point to not doing that and partnering up with brands and stuff. So yeah, I'd say if that budget is across like what you can spend on paid and also like what you can afford to like help you out with the free stuff and everything, then yeah, I think 1,000 each is fine.
All right, we found some common ground there. Okay, I think that's it for our Q&A episode today. But we'd love to hear from you guys, as we mentioned many times. We'd love to get voicemails from you guys, video messages from you guys. Just any questions you have for us, we're happy to answer them about newsletters. You can send them to letterlandpod@gmail.com. But that's all we have for today. We will see you guys next week.
See you next time.